The air conditioning in the auditorium for the opening ceremony was running as if money grew on trees. I, Ethan Johnson, sat in the corner of the last row, staring at the girl speaking on the podium as the freshman representative. Her name was Sophia Taylor. A white shirt, jeans, her long black hair tied into a simple ponytail, as fresh and clean as a ray of morning sunlight. But I personally extinguished that ray of sunlight. The memories of my past life gnawed at my brain like bone-deep worms. I remember how I used vile methods to threaten her family, forcing her to nod and agree to be my girlfriend. I remember how, at every touch, she trembled like a frightened rabbit. I remember the face she had when she found out she was pregnant, so pale it had not a hint of blood. In the end, all I remember is a cold suicide note and a cold body that fell from the rooftop. Ethan, if there is another life, I hope we never meet. Those are the last words she left me. My heart felt as if an invisible hand had grabbed it hard, aching so much I could hardly breathe. Never to meet again. Sophia, look, this is how God loves to joke. Not only have we met again, we've returned to the place where our ill-fated bond began. On the podium, Sophia Taylor finished her speech. She gave a slight bow, and thunderous applause erupted from the audience. She stepped down from the stage, and as she passed by where I was, her gaze seemed to sweep over me casually. I felt like a cat with its tail stepped on, suddenly lowering my head, my heart pounding uncontrollably. I was afraid she would see me. I was afraid she'd see this face of mine and grow utterly disgusted. I was afraid the hatred in her eyes would shatter the last bit of courage I had left to atone. Only when the crowd around me began to stir and slowly file out did I dare to lift my head. The stage was already empty. I let out a long breath, as if I had just been pulled out of the water, my back already soaked with cold sweat. Ethan, let's go. What are you spacing out for? A hand rested on my shoulder. My roommate and hanger-on, Mike Wilson. In my last life, the asshole things I did, he was basically involved in all of them. I frowned and calmly shook his hand off. Ethan, what's wrong with you? Mike Wilson asked, puzzled. Did you see the freshman rep just now? That's Sophia Taylor. She's stunning. No wonder she's universally recognized as our class beauty. Ethan, aren't you into that aloof type? Want the brothers to help you out. Shut up. My voice was low, but carried a chill I'd never had before. Mike Wilson froze. He'd probably never seen me like this. I ignored him and walked straight out of the auditorium. The sunlight was blinding, but I felt a chill all over. I made a decision. In this life, I will stay far away from Sophia Taylor. I don't deserve to be good to her. I only deserve to atone day and night in hell. Never seeing her again is the best compensation for her. To avoid Sophia Taylor, I practically used the brain from my past life. I checked her schedule and dropped every elective that might overlap with hers, replacing them with the most obscure, most boring courses. I gave up the student council that once wielded power over everything in my previous life and joined a model club that nobody attended. I even deliberately staggered my meal times. When she went to the cafeteria, I ate instant noodles, and when she ordered takeout, I went to the cafeteria. My followers all thought I was crazy. Ethan, what's gotten into you? You used to brag about wanting to date every beauty in the world. So why are you acting like an ascetic now? Mike Wilson mumbled, chewing on a chicken drumstick. I said nothing, just stared at the complex code on the computer screen. Yes, I'd started learning. In my previous life, I coasted through 4 years of university because my family was wealthy. After graduation, I took over the family company, but due to incompetence and stubborn pride, I squandered the fortune within a few years and ended up destitute, dying on a rainy winter night. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes in this life. Not only will I stay far away from Sophia Taylor, I'll live like a real person. Ethan, don't be silent, man. We're all worried about you. Mike Wilson grew anxious when I ignored him. Is something wrong at home? If you're short on cash, just tell us. I hit the final enter key, shut the computer, and turned to look at him. I'm fine. I just feel like I've been living too recklessly before and want to try a different way of living. Mike Wilson nodded, half understanding. Then, as if remembering something, leaned over with a gossiping look. By the way, Ethan, guess who I saw in the library today? My heart sank. I saw Sophia Taylor. She was actually asking about you. What? I almost shouted, my voice so loud that the other 2 roommates in the dorm who were playing games, Tom Brown and Jack Davis, were both startled. Why are you shouting? Mike Wilson shrank his neck at my outburst. She was asking about you, went around asking several people, asked if anyone knew someone called Ethan Johnson, even asked which dorm you live in, where you usually hang out. My mind went completely blank. What does she want to know about me? Could it be She was reborn too? The moment that thought popped up, I immediately dismissed it. Impossible. If she had also been reborn, carrying memories from her past life, she should hate me to the core, avoid me if she could. How could she possibly take the initiative to inquire about me? Unless she wants to get revenge on me. Thinking of this possibility, instead of feeling fear, a strange sense of relief washed over me. If she wanted to get revenge on me, stab me, or expose those disgusting things I did to the public and ruin my reputation, I would accept it. As long as it could ease even an iota of the hatred in her heart, I would be willing to do anything. I fell silent for a long time, long enough that Mike Wilson thought I was spacing out again. Ethan, from now on, I said slowly, my voice a little hoarse, if she asks about me again, tell her you don't know me. Huh? What? No reason. Just do it. I don't want to have any ties with her anymore, not even to be the target of her revenge. I only want her to be, as the suicide note in the last life said, someone who will never meet a scum like me again in this life. I thought I could avoid her, but I forgot how small a university is. As long as we're on the same campus, there will always come a time when avoidance is impossible. That afternoon, I went to the school's public bath to shower. Because I missed the peak time, I was the only person in the vast bathhouse. Steam hung in the air, shrouding everything in a hazy veil. I closed my eyes, letting the warm water wash over my body and scour away those lingering dark memories in my mind. Just as I was about to rinse off the foam, the bathhouse door was pushed open with a creak. I opened my eyes instinctively. At the doorway stood a person, someone I wanted to avoid even in my dreams, yet had seen countless times in them. Sophia Taylor. She seemed not to have expected anyone in the bathroom either, and froze where she stood. The two of us, one stark naked and the other fully dressed, stood across from each other, separated by the hazy steam, looking at one another from a distance. Time seemed to stand still in that moment. My brain crashed instantly, and all the blood rushed to my head. I forgot how to think, forgot to breathe, even forgot to cover myself. I could only see her. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt, her hair damp and draped over her shoulders, clearly having just washed it. A few strands stuck to her smooth forehead, making her eyes look even darker and shinier, like two pieces of obsidian soaked in water. Her gaze moved slowly down from my face. I could clearly see her earlobes quickly flush a thin layer of red, at a speed visible to the naked eye. I snapped back to my senses and, almost fumbling, grabbed the towel beside me to wrap around my waist, looking as disheveled as a thief caught in the act. How are you here? My voice was as dry as sandpaper rubbing together. This is the men's locker room. How did you get in? Sophia Taylor's cheeks were also flushed, but her expression was unusually composed. She didn't answer my question. Instead, she took a step forward and looked straight at me. Ethan Johnson. She spoke my name. It was the first time since my rebirth that I had heard her call my name. Her voice was clear and cold, like spring water in the mountains, yet made my heart feel as if a pebble had been dropped into it, sending out ripples. I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Explain? Apologize? Or just kick her out? But her next action stopped every word in my throat. She walked up to me and stopped. The distance between us was so close that I could smell the fresh scent of shampoo on the tips of her hair and see the droplets hanging on her long eyelashes. Then, she reached out her hand. It was a very beautiful hand, with slender fingers and neatly trimmed nails. In my previous life, countless times I had roughly grabbed those hands and forced her. I didn't dare imagine any further. I instinctively took a step back, wanting to avoid her touch. But her movement was faster than mine. Her fingertips, carrying a faint, cool dampness, gently landed on my chest. There's a faint scar. It was left when, in my previous life, I was stabbed by a madman, Leo Clark, while trying to save her. When I was reborn, that scar came back with me. My whole body went rigid, as if struck by lightning, unable to move. Her fingertips were on that scar, gently tracing back and forth. The movement was so soft, as if caressing a priceless treasure. The bathroom was terrifyingly quiet, with only the tick-tock of the faucet and the two of our distinctly audible heartbeats. My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it would burst out of my throat. Her heartbeat? I don't know. I only saw her eyes, those eyes that were always as cold and clear as the moon. But this moment seemed filled with shattered starlight, carrying a complex emotion I couldn't understand. There was nostalgia, there was pity, and a trace of attachment I didn't dare probe further. Are you hurt here? She finally spoke, her voice very soft, with a barely perceptible tremor. Does it hurt? I was completely stunned. How could she know about this scar? This scar appeared only after I met her. In this life, we hadn't even... A ludicrous thought that made my scalp tingle once again bubbled up uncontrollably from the depths of my mind. Could it be? She really did too. You got the wrong person. I almost gritted my teeth, forcing those 4 words out of my throat. I abruptly pushed her away. My movements were a bit rough from panic. Sophia Taylor stumbled, collided with the wall behind her, and made a dull thud. I didn't dare look at her face. I grabbed the clothes from the hanger beside me, slipped them on haphazardly, not even having time to dry off, and fled in a panic. I ran all the way back to the dormitory, locked myself in my room, pressed my back hard against the door, and panted heavily. My heart was still racing, as if it were about to burst out of my chest. My mind was in complete chaos. Why was she in the men's locker room? How did she know about the scar on my chest? When she looked at me, why was it with that kind of expression? Countless questions swirled in my mind, each one like a heavy hammer, striking my taut nerves hard. The only explanation, the one I dare not believe, yet that seemed the most reasonable. Sophia Taylor had also been reborn. This realization sent me sinking into an icy abyss. If she had been reborn too, then how deep would her hatred of me be? So what was all of this she did today, then? The beginning of revenge? To torment me, to humiliate me in a way I can't even comprehend? The thought of that possibility made my heart feel as if it had been steeped in bitter Coptis water, bitter and astringent, hurting me so I curled up. I would rather she stab me with a knife than see her look at me with those eyes of pity and tenderness, because that would make me feel even filthier, even more unforgivable. For the next few days, I completely turned myself into a transparent person. I didn't even leave the dorm. I lived off takeout 3 times a day and skipped all my classes, letting Mike Wilson answer for me. I was afraid. I was afraid of seeing Sophia Taylor again. I was afraid of seeing that look in her eyes that made my heart race. But I didn't expect that. I didn't go looking for her, yet she came looking for me. That night, I was reading in the dormitory when the door was suddenly knocked. "Who is it?" Mike Wilson shouted as he went to open the door. When the door opened, Mike Wilson's voice instantly changed pitch. "Sophia Taylor? Why are you here?" My body froze instantly, and the book in my hand fell to the floor with a sharp thud. I slowly, mechanically lifted my head. At the door, Sophia Taylor stood there in a white dress, graceful and poised. The dormitory hallway lights were dim, casting a soft halo over her that made her beauty seem almost unreal. Her gaze swept past the stunned Mike Wilson and the other 2 roommates, Tom Brown and Jack Davis, and landed precisely on me. "Ethan Johnson," she said, her voice low but carrying clearly to everyone's ears in the dormitory. "I'm here for you." The whole room fell into a dead silence in an instant. Everyone's eyes, like searchlights, all turned in unison and focused on me. Shock, confusion, gossip. I felt my cheeks burning, my palms covered in cold sweat. "What do you want from me?" I asked with difficulty. Sophia Taylor didn't answer. She just looked at me quietly. Then she said something that set the whole dormitory, and possibly the entire boys' residence hall, buzzing. "Ethan Johnson, come out here. I have something to tell you." Her tone was calm, but carried an unmistakable authority. I looked at her, and she looked at me. When our eyes met, I saw a trace of stubbornness in her beautiful eyes. I knew I couldn't get away. I followed Sophia Taylor down into the small grove beneath the dormitory building. It was midsummer. The evening breeze carried a trace of heat, rustling the leaves. We walked one after the other, neither of us speaking, the atmosphere so oppressive it was hard to breathe. Finally, she stopped in a shadow where the streetlight couldn't reach. I stopped as well, keeping 3 paces between us. It was a safe distance, one from which I could advance or retreat. "What do you want?" I broke the silence first, my voice carrying a wary tiredness I hadn't even noticed in myself. Sophia Taylor turned around, the streetlight's beam slanting in from behind her, casting a patchwork of light and shadow across her face that kept me from making out her expression. "I want you to be my boyfriend." Her words hit my mind like a depth charge, exploding loudly in my head. I suspected I was hearing things. "What did you say?" I said. Sophia Taylor stepped forward, closing the distance between us, her voice clear and steady, each word like a nail driven hard into my ear. "Ethan Johnson, be my boyfriend." I looked at her, trying to find a trace of joking on her face, but there was none. Her expression was serious, so serious that it felt absurd to me. "Sophia Taylor, Are you crazy? I couldn't help raising my voice. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I used to? I know. She cut me off, her voice still calm. I know you're Ethan Johnson. I know your family is wealthy, and I also know that you used to be a jerk. Her frankness left me momentarily speechless. I stared at her like an idiot, my mind a complete blank. She knew. She knew everything. Then why would she still? Why? I heard my voice trembling. Why did you do this? Revenge on me? Was it fun to toy with me? I wasn't toying with you. Sophia Taylor took another step forward. The distance between us was now less than a meter. I could even smell the faint, pleasant fragrance on her. Ethan Johnson, I like you. Boom. I felt my world utterly collapse at that moment. She likes me? Sophia Taylor said she liked me? That was even more shocking than her saying she had been reborn too. Impossible. I reflexively retorted, you can't like me. You hate me. You should hate me. In the last life, her final words, never meet again, still echoed in my ears. I don't hate you. Her voice was very soft, like a feather gently landing on my battered, hole-riddled heart. I didn't before, and I don't now. Why? I asked stubbornly, clutching like a drowning man at a last straw. Tell me why. Why don't you hate me? I clearly did something so cruel to you. I ruined your whole life. Sophia Taylor didn't answer. She just looked at me quietly. In the moonlight, I saw her eyes slowly redden. A glistening liquid gathered at the bottoms of her eyes, swirling, and in the end stubbornly refusing to fall. She sniffed, then made a move that took me completely by surprise. She suddenly lunged at me and hugged me tightly. Her body was soft, carrying a faint, girlish fragrance. Through the thin fabric, I could clearly feel her trembling and a wildly beating heart at her chest. My brain crashed once again. I stood frozen, helpless, letting her hold me. Ethan Johnson, her face buried in my chest, her voice muffled and thick with nasal tone. Please don't avoid me anymore, okay? I'm begging you. There was a fragility in her voice I had never heard before, almost pleading. In that instant, all my defenses, all my reason, all my resolve collapsed. I slowly lifted those hands that felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds, hesitated for a long time, and in the end, gently rested them on her back. I didn't know what she truly intended, nor did I know whether her professed liking was real or not. All I knew was that when she held me and begged me in that fragile voice, my heart ached as if it would break. From that night on, my life underwent a complete upheaval. I became Sophia Taylor's boyfriend. Of course, this boyfriend was forced upon me. I neither nodded nor shook my head, but after that night, Sophia Taylor simply assumed our relationship. She began to appear openly in my life. In the mornings, she would buy breakfast and wait for me under my dormitory building. At noon, she would reserve a spot and wait for me in the cafeteria to eat together. In the evenings, she would be holding a pile of books in the library, waiting for me to study together. The whole school went crazy. Ice-cold campus belle Sophia Taylor was actually chasing after that notorious rich second-generation heir, Ethan Johnson. This was simply the biggest news of the year. All kinds of rumors and slanders surged toward us like a tidal wave. Some said I had used my family's influence to threaten Sophia Taylor. Some said Sophia Taylor had degraded herself for money. There were even nastier things said. Every time I heard that, my heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. I wanted to push her away. I wanted to tell everyone that we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, to tell her to stop getting close to trash like me. But every time I met her clear, stubborn eyes, all my words got stuck in my throat. Ethan Johnson, you're not allowed to push me away. This was the sentence she said to me most often. My roommates, from initial shock to later numbness, are now already accustomed to it. Ethan, you're awesome. Mike Wilson gave me a thumbs up. Really, I, Mike Wilson, have never admired anyone in my life, except you. Getting a goddess like Sophia Taylor to chase you? You must have saved the galaxy in your past life, right? I forced a bitter smile. Save the galaxy? In my last life, I was the one who personally destroyed her galaxy. The days of dating Sophia Taylor were agony for me every single moment. I enjoyed her meticulous care, yet was tormented to pieces by the guilt deep in my heart. That feeling was like a thief who'd stolen their most treasured possession, wanting to flaunt it while fearing being found out. I became increasingly silent, increasingly unlike my former self. I no longer went to bars, no longer to clubs, no longer hung out with those fair-weather friends. My daily life was just the dormitory, the cafeteria, the library, 3 fixed points. I started listening to lectures seriously, taking notes diligently, and writing code earnestly. Everyone could see the changes in me. They all said it was the power of love that turned a playboy around. Only I knew I was simply atoning. I wanted to become a little better, then a bit better still. That way, when I stood beside her, I could feel a little less inferior, a little less ashamed. That night, we left the library. It was almost 10 o'clock. The campus was very quiet, only the streetlights tirelessly shining, stretching our shadows long and long. Ethan Johnson, she suddenly spoke. You've been working really hard lately. It's okay. I replied indifferently. She stopped walking, turned to look at me, her eyes glittering under the streetlight. Is it because of me? My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively avoided her gaze. Don't flatter yourself. I just don't want to fail the class. I said the insincere words, and my steps involuntarily quickened. Behind me, she let out a barely audible light laugh. When I reached the bottom of her dormitory building, she suddenly grabbed my hand. Her hand was cool and very soft. I felt like I'd been electrocuted and tried to jerk it away, but she held on tight. Ethan Johnson. She tilted her head up to look at me. The streetlight's glow softly bathed her face, making that already delicate face look almost unreal in its beauty. What? My voice sounded a little awkward. Close your eyes. Why? Close them when I tell you to. Don't ask so many whys. There was a rare hint of coquettish petulance in her tone. I, as if compelled by some strange force, really closed my eyes. Then I felt a soft, slightly cool touch gently press against my lips. My brain exploded with a bang, shattering into a brilliant burst of fireworks. This is a quiche. A kiss as light as a dragonfly skimming the water, yet enough to be etched in my memory for life. I shot my eyes open. Sophia Taylor's face was within arm's reach. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes showing a hint of bashfulness, a touch of nervousness, and a sliver of triumphant slyness. Good night. She blurted out the two words, then like a startled fawn turned and darted into the dormitory building. I stood there alone, foolishly frozen in place, raising a hand to touch my lips. There, it seemed her warmth still lingered, along with a faint, sweet scent. My heart was completely thrown into chaos. That kiss was like a stone cast into a lake, stirring up 1,000 layers of waves in my heart. I began to suffer from insomnia. The moment I closed my eyes, it was Sophia Taylor's flushed face and those sparkling eyes, and the feel of her lips, soft in an unbelievable way. I was going crazy. I must be crazy. I actually began to savor her tenderness, began to look forward to her closeness. I forgot who she was and I forgot who I was. I forgot how in my previous life I had hurt her. No, I can't go on like this anymore. I had to push her away immediately right now. The next day, I didn't wait for her downstairs at the dormitory, nor did I go to the cafeteria. I went straight to the classroom. I picked the seat in the farthest corner, put on my headphones, and pretended to be listening to music. But my peripheral vision kept circling the doorway. When that familiar figure appeared, my heart, as usual, betrayed me and began to race. Sophia Taylor wore a goose yellow dress today, which made her skin look even fairer. The moment she entered the classroom, she drew everyone's attention. Her gaze swept around the classroom and quickly locked onto me. Then, to everyone's surprise, she walked straight toward me. "Classmate, is this seat taken?" She stood by my desk and asked softly, the same familiar opening line. I didn't take off my headphones, nor did I look at her. I just coldly spat out two words, "Someone." The seat next to me was clearly empty. I could feel the air around us instantly solidify. Everyone's gazes, full of curiosity and gossip, scanned back and forth between us. Sophia Taylor also didn't seem to expect me to say that. She was startled for a moment. "Ethan Johnson, I don't know you." I cut her off, my voice as cold as ice. "Please don't bother me anymore." After saying that, I forced myself to turn my head toward the window and not look at her again. My heart is bleeding. I know how hurtful my words are, but I have to do this. Better a brief pain than a long one. I can't give her any more hope. I can't let her waste any more time on a scumbag like me. I waited a long time, but I never got a response from her. I thought she would be angry, would be disappointed, would turn and walk away. But I didn't expect that she would actually sit down in the seat next to me. I jerked my head around and looked at her in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "Attending class." She took a textbook out of her bag, her expression so natural as if nothing had happened. I said, "There's someone here." "I know." She winked at me, a sly smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Isn't there now?" "Me? I've completely lost my temper." I found that no matter how cold or how dismissive I was, she was like a piece of taffy. I couldn't shake her off no matter how I tried. And she seemed to really enjoy this. You chase me, I chase you game. I spent the whole class on pins and needles. I could feel her burning gaze fixed on me. She even moved her stool a bit closer to mine, our arms almost touching. I could smell her pleasant fragrance, like some unnamed flower, elegant and intoxicating. My heart was in utter turmoil. I barely made it to the end of class. I grabbed my backpack and bolted for the door as if something was chasing me. But just as I reached the hallway, someone grabbed my wrist from behind. It was Sophia Taylor. Ethan Johnson, what are you running for? She was slightly out of breath, a fine sheen of sweat beading on her forehead. I didn't run, I said stubbornly, trying to pull my hand free. But her strength was surprisingly great. Are you still mad at me? She asked, tilting her head up, a hint of tentative pleading in her eyes. I softened inside, but I still wouldn't give in. What would I be mad about? We're not even close. We're not that close. She drew out the words, then suddenly stood on tiptoe, leaned close to my ear, and in a voice only the two of us could hear, she whispered, "Then who was the person who kissed you last night?" Boom. My face flushed bright red in an instant. I could feel all the passing classmates around us casting suggestive glances our way. I clapped my hand over her mouth, both embarrassed and annoyed. What nonsense are you talking? Her eyes curved into two crescent moons, and through my fingers came her muffled, indistinct laughter. I looked at her smiling eyes, feeling both angry and helpless. I realized it seems I really have no way to deal with her at all. To avoid Sophia Taylor, I even started skipping classes. But it was no use. I skipped class, she skipped class. I hid in the dorm playing games, and she had Mike Wilson bring a message to me, saying she was waiting for me downstairs. If I didn't go down, she'd keep waiting. Once there was a heavy storm. She stood under our dormitory building with a tiny umbrella, waiting for a full 2 hours. The rain soaked her skirt, her hair. Her whole appearance was bedraggled and pitiable. In the end, I couldn't help but soften. I grabbed a dry towel and rushed downstairs, roughly draping it over her head and helping wipe her hair. Are you out of your mind? Yield the hair. It's pouring. Don't you know how to go home? She didn't speak. Just let me do it, tilting her head back and looking at me with those wet, fawn-like eyes. Seeing that made my heart both soften and ache. Ethan Johnson, she suddenly said, her voice thick with a heavy nasal tone. Do you hate me now? The motion of my hand froze. Yes. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to say the word. Her eyes instantly reddened. Why? There's no reason. I just don't like you. But, she sniffed, her voice tinged with sobs, but I like you. My heart felt as if something had stabbed it hard. I looked at her tearful face, at the unabashed love in her eyes, and suddenly I felt that I was the most ridiculous, most pathetic person of all. I thought I was atoning. I thought that by pushing her away, I was protecting her. But I forgot to ask her whether this was actually what she wanted. If she had also been reborn, if her professed feelings were real, then my actions now, could they not also be a kind of harm to her? I was silent for a long time, so long that she thought I wouldn't speak again. Go upstairs and change your clothes first. Don't catch a cold. In the end, I still gave in. I took her back to my dormitory. At that time, Mike Wilson, Tom Brown, and Jack Davis were all absent. I sent her to the bathroom to take a hot shower, then dug a largest-sized t-shirt of mine and a pair of athletic shorts out of the wardrobe. When she came out of the bathroom, I was sitting at the computer, absent-mindedly browsing web pages. Hearing the noise, I instinctively turned my head. Then I was completely stunned. She was wearing my clothes, an oversized t-shirt hanging on her like a child stealing an adult shirt, the hem reaching all the way to the top of her thighs. The legs exposed were slim and straight, dazzlingly pale. She had just gotten out of the shower, her hair damp and draped over her shoulders, her face still showing lingering moisture and a flush, like a ripe peach exuding an enticing fragrance. My Adam's apple rolled up and down uncontrollably. I felt my body suddenly heat up. You should blow-dry your hair first. I looked away, not daring to look at her, my voice hoarsely unnatural. Oh, she replied, picked up the hairdryer I had left on the table. In the dorm room, only the hum of the hairdryer remained. I pretended to be looking at my computer, but the corner of my eye kept uncontrollably darting toward her. She was very focused on blow-drying her hair. Her long eyelashes were like two small fans, casting a faint shadow beneath her eyelids. My heart was beating faster and faster. At that moment, the hairdryer's sound stopped. The dormitory fell silent again. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering. Ethan Johnson. She suddenly called out to me. I turned my head stiffly. Before I knew it, she had already come up behind me. She bent over, hands resting on the armrest of my chair, enclosing me between her and the chair. Her hair had just been dried and still carried a faint warmth. The tips brushed lightly against my cheek, tickling. The distance between us was so close I could clearly see the tiny down on her face. What are you trying to do? I was so nervous I couldn't even form the words properly. She didn't speak. She just lowered her head and, little by little, moved closer to me. Her eyes were like a bottomless pool, as if they could suck my whole being in. My breath stopped instantly. I watched her lips with wide eyes as they drew nearer and nearer to mine. Just as we were about to touch, the dormitory door was suddenly pushed open from the outside. Ethan, we're back. Holy shit. Mike Wilson's voice cut off abruptly. Sophia Taylor and I froze in place, as if someone had hit the pause button. At the door, Mike Wilson, Tom Brown, and Jack Davis stared at us in stunned silence, the takeout boxes in their hands. After that, Mike Wilson, Tom Brown, and Jack Davis, showing good sense, quietly slipped out and even closed the door for us. In the dormitory, only Sophia Taylor and I remained. An awkward atmosphere hung in the air. Sophia Taylor's face was flushed as if it might bleed. She straightened up quickly, stepped back several paces, and kept her head down, not daring to look at me. I felt both awkward and a subtle, indescribable annoyance. I'll walk you back. I cleared my throat and was the first to break the silence. She replied softly. On the way back, neither of us spoke. But I could feel that the atmosphere between us seemed to undergo a subtle change. At the very least, she no longer pressed me step by step like before. I also was no longer as cold and sarcastic toward her as I used to be. Between us, it was as if we had reached a silent understanding. I no longer deliberately avoided her, and she no longer deliberately clung to me. We were like an ordinary couple, attending classes together, eating together, going to the library together. Although neither of us ever broke through that thin sheet of glass. But I knew that some things were already different. I began to get used to seeing her figure every morning downstairs by the dorm. I began to get used to her quietly picking the cilantro I hate on her own plate when we eat. I began to get used to when I get tired of reading in the library and look up, seeing her quiet, beautiful profile. My heart is being filled by her, little by little. That feeling was strange, yet very warm. I even began to think that rebirth might truly be a blessing from heaven. It gave me a chance to make up for the regrets of my last life. It gave me a chance to get to know Sophia Taylor, someone I had never truly understood. During the midterm exams, to everyone's surprise, I ranked third in the entire department. And Sophia Taylor was first. On the day the results came out, Mike Wilson, Tom Brown, and Jack Davis insisted on dragging me out to celebrate. I didn't want to go at first, but Sophia Taylor said, "Go, I want to come too." I looked at the expectation in her eyes, and, as if driven by some unseen force, I nodded. We went to KTV near the school. Mike Wilson and the others were all karaoke fanatics. As soon as they entered, they grabbed the microphone and began to wail. Sophia Taylor and I sat side by side on the corner sofa, with juice and snacks set out in front of us. The private room was dimly lit, colorful spotlights wobbling across our faces. The deafening music drowned out everything outside. I turned my head and looked at Sophia Taylor beside me. Today she was wearing a simple white t-shirt, her hair casually down, no makeup, yet more beautiful than any heavily made-up girl in the room. She seemed to notice my gaze and turned her head to look at me. Our eyes met. In the dim light, her eyes shone astonishingly bright. "Ethan Johnson." She leaned close to my ear and called out loudly, otherwise I couldn't hear. Will you sing for me, please?" "I won't." I refused instinctively. In my previous life, I did come to places like this often, but it was always for drinking and having fun. Singing and that sort of thing never interested me. "Liar." She pouted in displeasure. "Mike told me you used to be the karaoke king." "Me? That Mike Wilson really has a big mouth. Just sing one song, okay?" She grabbed my arm and gently swayed, her tone tinged with a hint of coquettishness. I can't stand it when she acts like that. I struggled for a long time, but in the end I couldn't resist her pair of sparkling eyes. Just one. I took the microphone and chose a very old Cantonese song. It was the song I loved most in my previous life. The prelude began. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. When I opened my mouth and sang the first word, the whole private room fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at me in surprise. None of them probably expected that I, a good-for-nothing rich second generation, could sing such a heartfelt song. I paid them no mind. I was simply immersed in my own world. What I was singing was more than just a song. It was my regret toward her in my previous life, and the love in this life that I dare not speak aloud. When the song ended, the private room fell deathly silent. I opened my eyes, and the first person I looked at was Sophia Taylor. She watched me quietly, her eyes rimmed with red, and in them was a complex emotion I couldn't understand. There was being moved, feeling pained, and also a trace of understanding, as if she understood my song, as if she knew all my stories. In that moment, that absurd thought in my heart once again rose up uncontrollably. She really had been reborn too. It was already very late when we came out of the KTV. Mike Wilson and the others were all drunk, clamoring to go for a late-night snack. I made an excuse, saying I would first accompany Sophia Taylor back to her dorm. Walking through the deserted campus, the evening breeze swept by with a hint of chill. The two of us remained silent. But this time, the silence was different from before. The air was filled with an indescribable, ambiguous tension. I stopped in my tracks, just below her dormitory. Sophia Taylor. I took a deep breath, as if making a momentous decision. I have something to ask you. You ask. I looked in her eyes and asked word by word. Did we know each other before? I asked very cleverly. I didn't directly ask her if she had been reborn, because that would be too earth-shattering. I was just trying to test her. If she wasn't, she would find me inexplicable. If she was... Sophia Taylor's body stiffened, imperceptibly. She didn't answer me immediately. She just looked at me quietly, her gaze very deep, as if hiding countless secrets. After a long time, she finally asked softly in return, "What do you think?" She tossed the question back to me. My heart dropped, and suddenly she relaxed. I know the answer. Although she didn't admit it, her reaction already said everything. We both returned to this starting point with memories of our previous lives. That realization left me astonished and delighted, yet fearful and confused. What surprised me was that reincarnation wasn't an oddity that only happened to me. What made me happy was that if she also remembered the previous life, then her being so good to me now might mean that in the last life she actually didn't hate me? Perhaps even. What I feared was that if she remembered everything, then the awful things I once did to her would become scars between us that could never be erased. The chaos is that I don't know how we should face each other, how to face this relationship that has been messed up across 2 lifetimes. Ethan Johnson. When my mind was in turmoil, she suddenly spoke. No matter whether we knew each other before, all I know is that in this life, I like you. Her voice was soft, yet very firm. Like a beam of light, it instantly illuminated all the darkness and confusion in my heart. So, she stepped forward, lifted her chin, and bravely looked me straight in the eyes. "Will you be my real boyfriend?" She was confessing her feelings to me. She confessed to me again, even though I already knew she had been reborn too. My heart felt like it was going to explode. All my worries, all my unease, at this moment were shattered by her brave and sincere eyes. Screw last life. Fuck guilt. Since heaven has given me a second chance, I shouldn't waste it again. I suddenly reached out and pulled her hard into my arms. Ido. I heard my own voice, hoarse beyond belief, but with an unprecedented firmness. Sophia Taylor y Ido. I will use the rest of my life to make up for the mistakes of my past life. I will give everything I have to love you, dote on you, and protect you. The girl in my arms froze for a moment, then forcefully hugged me back. I felt a warm liquid soaking through the shirt over my chest. She was crying. I held her as if I were holding the whole world. This moment I had waited 2 lifetimes for. We were officially together. This time, it wasn't her making a unilateral announcement, but me openly acknowledging it. The next day, I held her hand and appeared in the school's cafeteria. We became the focus of everyone's attention. Those once rumored whispers, upon seeing our tightly clasped hands, seemed to turn into envy and jealousy. I don't care what others think. What I care about is how the girl beside me feels. Aren't you afraid of people gossiping? I asked her while we were eating. She was nibbling on the shrimp I had peeled for her. At my words, she looked up and gave me a sweet smile. "Not afraid," she said. "As long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid of anything." Her smile was brighter than the sunlight outside the window. I looked at her, my heart melting into a gooey mess. I never knew that falling in love could be such a beautiful thing. I would wake up first every morning just to wait for her a little longer under her dorm building. I would skip my boring elective and sneak in her classroom, sitting in the back row just to watch her serious profile. When she had her period, I would prepare brown sugar water and a heating pad for her in advance. Even if she turned pale with pain, she would still give me a weak smile. I pampered her into a princess. Everyone says I've changed from an arrogant, domineering scoundrel into a 24 filial good boyfriend. Only I know I haven't changed. I'm just, little by little, repaying what I owed her for my past life. But the more I give, the deeper the guilt in my heart. We never mentioned a rebirth again, as if it were an unspoken secret. But that secret was like a thorn lodged between us. I didn't dare ask her what she had really thought in the previous life. Why didn't she hate me? Why would she fall for a scumbag like me? I was afraid that if I asked out loud, the current happiness would burst like a bubble in an instant. Until that day. It was a weekend, and the weather was nice. Sophia Taylor said she wanted to take me somewhere. I didn't ask much, drove the car, and followed her navigation, driving out of the city. The car finally stopped in front of a cemetery on the outskirts of Los Angeles. My heart dropped. What are we doing here? Sophia Taylor didn't answer. She just took my hand and walked into the cemetery. We stopped in front of a tombstone. There was no photo on the tombstone, only a name, Ethan Johnson. Beneath it were the dates of birth and death. Year of death, the year I died in my previous life. My mind went blank. I had it erected for you. Sophia Taylor's voice was very calm. After you left, I come to see you every year. I looked at that cold tombstone, feeling as if something was choking my throat. I couldn't utter a single word. In my last life, when I died, I was penniless, disgraced, with no one even to collect my body. I thought I would vanish from this world without a sound, like a stray dog. I never imagined that anyone would even set up a tombstone for me, or that someone would come to see me every year. And that person was the one I had hurt the most, Sophia Taylor. I managed to speak, my voice thick with a heavy nasal tone. Sophia Taylor turned her head and looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. Because I love you, you idiot. She said, from the beginning, I've loved you. In the last life, the first time you confessed to me was at the school's welcome party. Sophia Taylor leaned against my shoulder, watching the distant sunset, and slowly told the story I didn't know. You were drunk then, you grabbed my hand, and said you fell in love with me at first sight. The way you spoke was bossy, and also cute. I was stunned. I don't remember that at all. I only remember that later I used very despicable means to force her to be my girlfriend. Later, you started chasing me like crazy. Bringing flowers, giving gifts, playing guitar under my dormitory. You did a lot of things that, in hindsight, were childish but also very romantic. Her voice carried a hint of fond reminiscence. Actually, I'd already fallen for you. It's just that I was too timid and too insecure. I felt like we were from two different worlds, you so dazzling, and I just a plain girl from the countryside. I was afraid your affection was only a fleeting fancy. So I kept refusing you, kept avoiding you. I thought that way you'd give up. But I didn't expect my refusal would anger you. You began using some extreme methods to force me. Her voice dropped as she spoke. I hugged her hand and tightened my grip unconsciously. I am sorry. Don't say sorry. She shook her head, then turned her hand to clasp mine. The one who should apologize is me. If back then I had been a bit braver, had told you my feelings sooner, perhaps we wouldn't have reached that point. Later, we got together. Although it was forced, I could see that you truly wanted to be good to me. You bought me the best things, took me to the finest restaurants, and didn't allow anyone to bully me. It's just that your way of doing things was too clumsy. You thought love was possession, was control. You don't understand. What I wanted wasn't any of that. After that, I became pregnant. Her body trembled slightly. My heart clenched as well. At that time, I was scared and panicked. I didn't dare tell you because I was afraid you wouldn't want the child. I went to the hospital by myself in secret, planning to have the pregnancy terminated. But on the operating table, I regretted it. That was our child. How could I bring myself to do it? I dropped out of school and hid back in my hometown. I wanted to give birth to the child and raise him on my own. But I didn't expect you would find me. When you found me, you were very angry. You thought I was deliberately avoiding you, that the child in my belly wasn't yours. We had a huge fight, and you slapped me. After you left, I was crushed. I felt my life was completely ruined. I loved you, but I didn't know how to love you. I hated you, but I hated myself even more. So I chose the most foolish way. I wrote you that suicide note, told you I hated you, told you we'd never meet again. Actually, that was all a lie. I only wanted to use that method to make you remember me forever. I didn't expect that my death would hit you so hard. I saw you, like a madman, taking revenge on everyone who had ever hurt me. I saw you squander the family fortune and become penniless. I saw you, on a rainy winter night, freezing to death on the street. Ethan Johnson, she turned her head, tears streaming down her face as she looked at me. Do you know? Watching you like that hurt more than my own death. I begged heaven, if there really is a next life, let me meet you again. This time, let me be the one to love you. And then, I really was reborn. After hearing her story, my face was already wet with tears. I held her tightly, so tightly, as if trying to fold her into my very bones. It turns out that in the last life, we loved so humbly, so awkwardly. It turns out we missed so much. Sophia Taylor. I wiped the tears from her face with a kiss, my voice choking. I'm sorry. I love you. I know. She smiled at me, but the tears flowed all the more. I love you too. We stood before the tombstone that belonged to my previous life, embracing and kissing as if we were pouring out 2 lifetimes worth of love all at once. The afterglow of the sunset stretched our shadows long and long. I knew that from this moment on, we were truly reborn. Epilogue. We held the wedding as soon as we graduated from university. The wedding was grand, practically causing a sensation throughout Los Angeles. Everyone said I was a winner in life, young and already successful in my career, and I had married such a beautiful and virtuous wife. But only I know that everything about me is because of her, Sophia Taylor. Without her, I wouldn't be who I am now. I often wonder if I hadn't been reborn, what would I be like now? Perhaps I'd still be that poor wretch who froze to death on the street. It was Sophia Taylor who gave me a second life. It was her who made my life whole. I know that the happiness of this life has only just begun, and we have a very, very long future ahead of us. 2 lifetimes is such a long time.